Hello, I'm Robert Payton, and welcome to the book of Revelation is So Simple, Part 5. I made a different diagram this time. We're going to cover the feasts and how they're laid out. Remember I said that there was one of the three primary things you need to use is the feast. And let's just go over it. It starts when Christ returns. Again, it's going to start looking for his return around 2067, which would be 2,000 years after Jerusalem was destroyed, which is what the Bible tells us in the hints. And it starts with the Feast of Trumpets. Revelation 20, Satan's locked up for the 1,000 years. And then when we backtrack to Revelation chapter 7, from that vision, we see the 144,000 are sealed first before the third resurrection takes place. And this is the resurrection when we meet the Lord in the air, in the clouds, before he begins his millennial reign. Within an hour, the whore of Babylon is destroyed. Days later, on the Day of Atonement, this is your timeline. Days later, we see a lone eagle flying in mid-heaven. That lone eagle has three announcements. Let me backtrack. The whore of Babylon being destroyed fulfilled the first four plagues. And remember, a plague equals one trumpet and one bowl. There's not 14 angels, plague angels. There's only 7. And if you read the visions correctly from Revelation chapter 8 and Revelation chapter 15, remember the angels start off in the tent of witness with God the Father, receiving their trumpets, and then they come down out of the tent of witness to the altar to receive from the other angel, who I believe is Christ, the 7 bowls. So they receive the trumpets from the Father and the bowls from Jesus. And those are only 7 angels. Each one's carrying one trumpet and one bowl. They're the 7 plague angels. The first 4 plague angels release their plagues on the whore of Babylon, which is a nation within the Middle East, according to the Old Testament. And that nation is today Saudi Arabia. And destroys her in 1 hour, Revelation 18. So, next we see a lone eagle flying in mid-heaven after the first 4 plagues. In Revelation 8, Revelation 8:13, we see the lone eagle in mid-heaven. So, that eagle is declaring 3 woes. And what are the woes? Well, we have to go to Revelation 14 to see the 3 woes, the 3 announcements, and the 3 commands given to the people that remained on the earth after the third resurrection. Those are left. And remember, at third resurrection, we also have the resurrection of hell. Everyone in hell is resurrected back up. But they're not taken up to the clouds. Only the Christians, God's people, are taken up to the clouds to meet the Lord in the air and rule and reign with him for the 1,000 years. So those people that are left behind are going to see this one angel flying in mid-heaven, declaring 3 woes. This is an eagle angel, looks like an eagle, flies like an eagle, and those announcements are 3 commandments that are given to them for the millennial reign. And so you have to look for the 3. What are the 3 announcements? Well, you find them in Revelation 14 when it starts with the first woe, which is the good news. It's announcements about the good news. And then you have the second and the third. Those are the 3 woes, the 3 angels. But before that, we find that Christ in Revelation 14:1, before the announcement, we find that Christ enters Jerusalem. So you surmise that simply the lone eagle is flying him in heaven, but before that, possibly even before that, Christ enters Jerusalem. But the lone eagle flies him in heaven and gives the 3 woes, which is the other 3 probably eagle angels flying in mid-heaven, because the first one's flying in mid-heaven, and they're declaring first woe, which is good news. The second woe, which is Babylon's been destroyed. Third woe is the commandment that if you worship the beast, you will die from everlasting fire. So the next feast As time goes by, the next feast, Feast of Tabernacles. Now, if you wonder when these feasts take place, they're different on the solar calendar, which is what we use in America. But these feasts, you can buy one of those books in Walmart, and they tell you when the feasts take place in the next couple of years, but they don't go as far as 2067. You just have to stay on your toes there. The next feast is the Feast of Tabernacles. And as the Old Testament says, that when Christ returns, he's going to command that tabernacles be built. Why? Because people are going to come to Jerusalem. People are going to come to him, and they have to have a place to stay. So Christ commands tents to be built, roads to be built. He commands Jerusalem's restoration, Jerusalem to be rebuilt. And he commands the true Jewish people to return to the land of Israel, those that did not accept him as Lord and Savior. So that's the Feast of Tabernacles. The next is the Feast of Lights, or Hanukkah. Chanukah, Feast of Lights, Feast of Dedication. This is where Christ dedicates Jerusalem back to God the Father. His blood cleanses everything, and he said he will purify where he stands in the Old Testament. It is here that Christ is best surmised that Christ officially begins on the Feast of Lights his millennial reign over Jerusalem. He has a lot to do when he comes to set up for it, but he officially declared King of Kings, Lord of Lords, and the 1,000-year reign begins. And that's it for this video. That was the next step. So next, I'll go ahead on the 1,000-year reign. You've got to read the Old Testament. You've got to read Isaiah chapter 60 through 66, Isaiah chapter 34. If you want to learn more about destruction of the poor of Babylon, that was in Jeremiah chapters 50 and 51. You have to read up on that, understand what Christ is coming back to do. Again, there's no 7-year tribulation in any of this teaching. There's no such thing. It's not even written in the Bible anywhere. You cannot find anywhere in the Bible that there's a 7-year tribulation. It's made up by man. And there's no coming Antichrist. That guy died back during the destruction of Jerusalem back in 70 AD, the one that's referenced. They also reference Satan, which is here on the earth still today. He was kicked out of heaven after the war in heaven, which was right after Jerusalem's destruction. And then he created the second beast religion, which is the primary religion in the Middle East right now. But he will be locked up. And then he'll be let out after the millennial reign. Satan's released. And there he'll set out to deceive man once again and send out his demons and everybody to deceive man. And those that choose, after 1,000 years of peace and prosperity on earth, those that choose Satan as their God or leader or whatever, then that's when God separates them. And that's when you find the end of the woe, first and second woe. The good news is over at the end of millennial reign, along with Babylon's destruction will be after that. That's why the second woe, the first woe, we find that the first woe ends when you put it in order. And that was in a separate video I just did about the 3 woes and the second woe. But the third woe will never end, because those that worship the beast, after the millennial reign, they still decide to worship the beast. They will receive everlasting fire. And that'll be for eternity. So, hope you enjoyed this teaching. If you've got any requests or anything, you can email me or comment on this video, and I will get it at revelationsofgraceandmercy@gmail.com. And if you're interested in the free ebooks, they're both on smashwords.com. The first book I did was very long and very in-depth, is Revelations of Grace and Mercy, the truest interpretation of the book of Revelation. The second book is only 40 pages, and it kind of sums everything up, and it is the book of Revelation is so simple. Both of them are free ebooks. You just have to log in, download them for free onto your Kindle or whatever you use. And they're available at smashwords.com. Again, we'll see you next time. This has been part 5 of the book of Revelation is so simple. Have a good day.